you realistically, you want to build an audience that are engaged and that are going to come back and that are going to follow you. Being added to random playlists just for the sake of being in there that aren't really going to convert to that many streams seems like a complete waste of time to me. The reason why those playlists have got big numbers is because you have to follow it to get yourself in there. That's not how music curation works.
You're listening to the Label Machine series, a podcast to inspire and help indie record labels and artists to build income streams for their music. I'm Nick Sadler, a music entrepreneur that has helped start and run multiple indie record labels. In this series, I'll be speaking with music industry leaders about their experience and the lessons they learn on how they both market and grow their music income. Welcome to the Label Machine series, where we discuss with our guests how artists and record labels sell music. Today's guest is Amy Jayne. Amy is an artist and label consultant for Shogun Audio, Algorithmic Records, Technimatic Records. She was named Best of the Rest in the Music Week 30 Under 30 list, is a regular industry expert on panels at music conferences such as the Brighton Music Conference, Amsterdam Dance Event, and Beats Evolution Conference. She is the current label at Maraki Records. Amy, how are you today?
I'm very good. Thank you very much. What an intro.
What an
intro. It's like this is your life.
Did I say Maraki Records? Is that how you pronounce it?
Maraki Records. So yeah, Maraki Records is UK-based label, which is led by My New Lang and Fine Art. Fine Art is also known as Friction. This is his bass house alias.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, I've been working with them for quite a while because they were working underneath the Shogun umbrella. And now I'm just kind of doing it on a freelance basis. So yeah, it's cool.
Nice. So can you give us a quick rundown of how you got started in the industry up to kind of where you're at now?
Right. So many moons ago, I basically got involved in music by just networking. And at the time when I was 16 and I was doing it, I didn't even realize it was networking. It was just going out and chatting to as many people in the music industry as possible. And unlike some of my friends, I wasn't really like blessed with the talents of being able to sing, or I'm a crap DJ. But I was always surrounded by talented people and music, and I knew I always wanted to get into the music industry, but I didn't know where. I was living up in Newcastle at the time. I was putting on drum and bass nights. Some were doing well, some weren't doing as well. Put on dubstep nights, but I just surrounded myself by like artist managers, artist agents, promoters, DJs, and just soaked up as much knowledge as I could from like a really young age. So after years of losing loads of money as an event promoter up in Newcastle, I got chatting to London Electricity from the founder of Hospital Records. And at the time, back in 2011, 12, they were looking for a promo assistant. Now, I hadn't had any label experience by that point at all. I kind of blagged my way into the job, but no, I didn't blag my way. Tony Coleman, I owe it all to him. Like, he took a chance on me. So I joined the company and knew that not that I was in over my depth, but I knew that I was given an amazing opportunity. So again, I just soaked it all up and just threw myself into the job, which led on to me being promoted to head of promo. And again, that opened up so many doors. I met you at multiple conferences. I was going out, meeting so many people within the industry and just soaking it all up. I did, and then after hospital, I did a little stint at freelance, which was a lot of radio plugging and marketing, a bit of press. Joined Shogun under as head of marketing, which again opened up loads of more doors and led me into the label manager role. And I did that for a few years. And now I've taken all of that knowledge from the past decade or so, and I'm throwing it back into my freelance role as an artist and label consultant.
Nice. So you've really got to experience all parts of the industry, and in particular, the promo and marketing side, which,
Mhm.
you know, for me is like once the music's been made is the most important part, because if
Mhm.
no one can hear the music, it's just not going to go anywhere. And it's not doing any justice. You know,
Yeah.
we need to spread the love and spread the music.
Yeah,
Um,
unfortunately, good music doesn't sell itself because
exactly.
it's just so busy out there, and you've got to fight through the noise quite literally.
Mm. So as a freelancer, what are your main activities at the moment in the music industry?
So my two main clients are Shogun and Elevate. So even though I stepped down as the label manager role, let's step down from the label manager role, I'm still very much involved with working with because they've got two new label managers there now. They've got Pete, who is label manager of Shogun, and Jess, who is label manager of Elevate. So I work alongside them. I do radio plugging and DSP plugging for them,
Mm-hmm.
and generally just kind of like consult on how the campaign should run and stuff like that. So they're my two main clients. And then obviously I've got Maraki, which is label management. So I do everything from kind of like distribution to getting all the assets ready and communicating with the artists and everything that a label manager has to do. And then I work with Technimatic. I've just helped them launch their own label, which is Technimatic Music. So again, it's just kind of like talking to them about the release strategies, how to make the most out of different avenues, and just pushing people in the right direction. And I think that's me taking the decision to leave, a step down as label manager. It was because I was like, hang on, like I've got all this knowledge, and instead of me just giving it to one person, I'd like to help lots of people. So, but yeah,
I
it's just,
totally relate to that.
yeah, but then it's just like, okay, you've got to make a business out of this as well. You can't just go around giving everyone your secrets and telling everyone exactly what they need to do. So yeah, but I
Mm,
love it. I love helping people, and
mm.
yeah.
So earlier you mentioned uh, you were doing some freelance promotion to DSPs. So what, like for listeners that don't know, what is a DSP? And then when you say you're promoting to them, what does that look like?
So DSP is digital streaming platform. So you've got your top three, in my opinion, which is Spotify, Apple Music, and Deezer.
Mm-hmm.
Amazon Music is also rising in the ranks. Obviously, I work predominantly in dance music, so I go where the listeners are. So yeah, I pitch to the editors and get placements on the platforms like New Music Friday, Massive Drum and Bass on Spotify. Apple Music have got Best of the Week, New in Dance and Drum and Bass. And Deezer has selected D&B. So yeah, I speak to the curators and update them on all the new music coming through and get placements.
Nice. And as part of the promotion that you offer, because I know especially in club music that you want to get the music to the DJs that are playing it, like playing on radio, or you know when we're back out of lockdown, playing it in clubs and festivals. Do you offer, like, do you service those DJs as well, or do you use other kind of companies for that? How does that side of it work?
Yeah, so obviously over the past year, club promo is not really a thing. But yeah, I use Label Engine, which is full of data that I've collected from over the years. So I have kind of like your top tier artists, and I have kind of like emerging artists. And yeah, with dance music, obviously getting that club support is really, really important. So that is a service I offer as well. And yeah, I have to, with those things as well. Another thing to think about as well is some DJs have radio shows and podcasts as well. So it's all about making sure that everyone has the music and everyone's in line. Spotify don't like it when you go on air and not on sale, as they say. So it's making sure you're ticking all the boxes and keeping everyone happy and basically getting the music as far and wide as possible.
Yeah, gotcha. So when you were, I had a question I want to go for, but when, like, yeah, that was it. With the current environment of people not going out, how has that affected, or how have you seen that affected the landscape for promoting music to what would traditionally be DJs playing it out in clubs? Like, are they still picking it up, or like how has that sort of changed in your opinion?
Well, in terms of the DJs receiving the promos, they are downloading and they're giving feedback back, which is always good as well, because um, even if they aren't able to play it out in a club, having your label engine report, which has your peers feeding back on the music, can really boost an artist's confidence as well. And it gives you a kind of good judgment, because another thing as well is the label wants to know what the peers think as well. So that feedback, regardless of whether there's going to be club play, is obviously invaluable to the label and to the artist. But in terms of kind of the promotion element of club plays, with Elevate Records specifically, because that is a very dance floor drum and bass heavy kind of platform. We did struggle last year, because it was just kind of like, all we knew was we release bangers, get the music out there, get a massive video of a big drop, and then everyone's like, oh my God, I can't wait to hear that in a club.
Yeah.
But how can you sell music which is made for that, which you can't enjoy in that setting? Like, hopefully by 21st of June, touch wood, we can try and get back to some normality. But yeah, it has been really difficult this year, sharing that feeling of, this is going to sound so beast on a sound system, when people are so mentally far removed from that right now.
Yeah.
But yeah, we just got to keep going though, because we will be back in the dance soon.
Yeah. I mean, there's only so many running playlists you can kind of add that music to.
Exactly.
Or doing the housework playlists. That's when I still that's when I still put on my drum and bass, running and doing housework.
Yeah, exactly. And that's another thing, actually, especially with drum and bass. Because like drum and bass, I've been working in drum and bass since I was 20. Like, I know it inside out. But even though like it's taken over my life, it's still very niche in the grand scheme of things. So like you said, like in terms of playlist support, people associate it with like high energy stuff, like going to the gym. There isn't as much editorial content for drum and bass, I think, at the moment, because there's so much music coming out and only selected artists are getting represented in the right playlists, which are getting to the right audience. But that's a whole other interview that I could just sit here for.
When you, for the listeners though, when you say editorial, what do you mean by editorial?
So editorial, by that I mean, I don't mean algorithmic playlists like Discover Weekly or Release Radar. They're based on listeners activity, whereas editorial is someone has physically read the email, read the press release, and made a decision to add that to the playlist based on whatever is going around with that artist. But there's hundreds, and like, I'm freelance and I have 4 releases out this Friday, and I'm one person, and 3 out of 4 of those tracks are drum and bass. Imagine how much other new music is coming out on a weekly basis. It's great, but these platforms that hold the key to success sometimes, well, especially now, don't have the availability to accommodate. Not, of course they can't accommodate everyone, but at the moment they can't even accommodate the people who need the love and deserve the love, more importantly.
Okay. So I guess keeping on trends, like what are you finding are working for artists and labels selling music today? What do you find is and probably even, you know, extend that beyond like COVID, like even pre-COVID, you know, what's moving the needle? What are you finding is moving the needle with selling music?
Well, I think all in all, obviously the music's got to be great. That goes without saying.
Assuming the music's banging.
Yeah, of course. But I think kind of fans love a story. Like, don't get me wrong, it could be Maraki G Tour and it could be an absolute banger and do like 35 million just out of nowhere. That does happen. But I think for longevity for an artist's success, not just selling one record, you want to sell all of the records is the goal. An artist, you don't want to be a one-hit wonder. But I think you've got to have integrity and a story and connect with your fans, which is not really something that every artist wants to do. But there's different, like, I'm not saying they have to jump on stories 24 hours a day. Hey fans, I'm just going to the supermarket. Like, some people do that and some people wouldn't dare do that.
Yeah.
But you got to do what's right for you as an artist and connect with your fans, whether that's doing like production tutorials, like being quite like getting to the nitty gritty of making the music, or whether that's doing stupid TikTok dances. Like, whatever your audience wants, you kind of got to get on the same level as them.
I mean, I've heard that many times, and probably a lot of listeners have heard it as well, like, to have a story and create a story. But what are your tips for say a new artist who doesn't really have a story? Like, they may be early 20s, they had a good education, like nice upbringing. They started, they got a computer and started making music at home, and they got some cool music that they want to share with people. Like, what would you advise someone like that to kind of, hey, you want to have a story?
Well, everybody has a story. Just because it's not like dramatic doesn't mean that they don't have a story. Everyone is influenced by someone. Like, so that, say this individual, you say they've had like an okay life, this, that, the other. Why did they get into production? How did they get into production? Did they teach themselves? And stuff like that, like, and what music has influenced them. So like simple things like on your Spotify profile, have a playlist of maybe your back catalog, but then maybe have another playlist which showing your listeners what music influenced you to get to where you are and stuff like that.
Yeah, I see. I hear what you're saying. Is there any other, just going back to the trends as well, you mentioned earlier that Amazon is sort of picking up recently. Excuse me, that's the sound of East London. Yeah, you mentioned Amazon is now trending quite highly. I mean, years ago we saw Spotify on the rise and is now number one. Yeah. I mean, talking about Amazon, and is there any others that are you're seeing changes in the trends?
Amazon's obviously gonna continue to grow with Alexa and everything like that. That was I'm not that's not a trend that I'm surprised to see. It's just really good to see that they're now getting on the playlist front, because before you could just say Alexa, play drum and bass, and it'll play anything, whereas now they're obviously going to go down the Spotify route of curating playlists, which will obviously be prioritized.
Just 1 second. My Alexa picked you up saying that. Hang on. Alexa, stop.
Alexa, stop playing drum and bass.
I thought for a second, I was like, I wonder if she's going to hear you. And she did. That's so funny. Okay.
See? Exactly. Alexa's playing drum and bass everywhere. Whoever listens to this, their Alexa's going to be going mad.
So yeah, that's great to say. So how's the playlist submission working with Amazon? I mean, most people are pretty familiar now with Spotify. How does it work with Amazon?
So with Amazon, with Spotify, it's obviously through the app. They get inundated with emails daily, so they obviously streamline everything through the app, which is great because a lot more artists are getting a better understanding of how DSPs work, and because every artist can pitch their own music, it opens it up to so many more producers. However, with Deezer have a form. It's kind of like a Google form. Apple Music and Amazon is pitched directly to the editors. So that's just by email, letting them know that the release is coming. If there's any kind of like big features like a radio premiere, online support, and again, telling the story of that release and describing it. And one thing that the curators don't ask for, but I like to do, is because they're very busy people, so you have to make their lives easy for them. I like to highlight where I see the music sitting on their platform. So if it's a drum and bass track to Spotify, I would highlight like massive drum and bass and things like that. And just Yeah, whenever you're pitching, regardless of whether it's Spotify, Radio One, or UKF, just make everything very clear and very simple,
Yeah.
and that will get you far.
Yeah. So you're saying that Amazon and Apple are familiar in the way you submit to editors. So would you say for you know, the average musician is not quite the right word, but you would probably have to go through, I guess the difference is on Spotify, anybody can just go on and submit your playlist. But what you're saying is Amazon is you would probably have to go through someone who has a relationship with the editor, i.e. like someone like you or any kind of service like that.
Yeah, or a lot of digital distribution companies have kind of like a promo arm. I know on Earth, they've got a guy called John there who speaks to all the platforms. So it's subject to who your distribution is through as well. But always ask, because it's in their favor for your release to do well. So I'm sure they'll help you if they can.
Gotcha. So what challenges do you find indie labels are facing in the DIY climate of artists that maybe think they don't need a label?
Well, as technology grows, the floodgates get wider and wider of crap, to be completely honest.
Yeah.
Like, I think it's great that more and more indie artists have the opportunities to self-release. Like, obviously, I'm doing that with Technimatic. They've had an amazing 3 albums with Shogun, and they just wanted to try something new. And like loads of people in drum and bass are doing it. You can see Alex Perez and all sorts. But yeah, I think, and the one thing I find as well is because I speak to a lot of artists that are running their own labels, they forget how hard work it is. Because there's so much detail. There's the marketing. Well, there's obviously getting the music ready in the first place. There's handling the mastering. There's the distribution, contracts, and everything. So when they're bogged down doing this, they're having less time to be the creative. So the workload is something they never consider. They think it's really easy, but it's really not. And another thing I see, and I've seen this for years with artists moving labels or self-releasing or anything like that, sometimes they don't get the right A&R support. So it's you have to be paired with someone that understands you and your sound and help get you to where you want to be, which is the whole point of a label. Some labels are just lazy, shall I say, and are just like, oh yeah, I'll take that one. Oh no, I don't like that one. But that's not what a record label historically is there for. You want to work with someone that is going, oh well, you can make those changes, you can do this, do that. Like, that is what a record label's about. With it, when you're self-releasing, unfortunately, you don't get that. And so sometimes I think it's good to have a non-biased opinion, not a non-biased opinion. You know, like when you've been staring at something too long and you just need a fresh pair of eyes or ears on it. Yeah.
Can't see the wood from the trees.
Yeah, exactly.
So A&R is, I think it traditionally stands for artist repertoire. So that is what you're saying is if an artist is self-releasing, they're missing out on, or any artist needs to make sure their label is feeding back on the music. So what you're saying is not just saying, I like that track or I don't like that track. You're saying you need to do this to the track. You need to have this element. You maybe need to take the vocal out or put a vocal in or something. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah. Yeah. And then, so there's the advice on the music, which is obviously first and foremost, but some artists shouldn't be allowed on social media. Like, some people just need to be slapped and say, like, what are you doing? You know what I mean? Like, so like you need someone to guide you on how to handle your presence on social media and beyond. And some people just get it and some people just don't get it at all. And see people getting cancelled for stupid things that they share on the internet, you know what I mean? And yeah,
not thinking twice.
Yeah. And if you're too busy because you're doing everything yourself, you could ruin your career with one Instagram story.
Or one tweet.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I guess that leads on to this question, which is, do you think you can have a successful music career without a traditional record label?
I can, yeah. But I think it depends on the artist. It depends on, like, Technimatic, for example. They're not young 21-year-olds. They have had releases on multiple labels. They understand how it works, and they're not trying, and at the moment they're focusing on their own releases, which is a good start. They're not trying to bring in new music and do everything all at once. So yeah, I think you can definitely have, well, look at Alex Perez and everyone, like, they've absolutely killed it. I think you can definitely have a successful career self-releasing, but I think it depends on where you are in your musical career and what level of help you need.
Yeah, I think that's key, is if you're going to do it, you need to have somebody helping you, whether that's a community, something like that we do at the Label Machine, whether it's with a consultant like you, or it is like your manager. So you mentioned Alex Perez. I know Matt, his manager, and I know how hard he works on that label. Like, that's a big part. Like, Alex Perez is doing music, all the actual paperwork and those bits and pieces that are quite tough. His manager's doing that. Obviously his manager's getting a cut for that. But again, it just illustrates, I think, that if you do want to do it without a traditional record label deal, you still need help, and you need to find that.
100%. Yeah, definitely. Always got to have the right team around you, whether that's your agent or your artist manager. Otherwise, things can turn very toxic very quickly. Creatives love a bit of drama.
Yeah, and it does seem to be the more talented the creative, the more drama they love. Not always.
I don't know. I've found the opposite over the past year, actually.
Oh, really?
I found that the pioneers of the scene that I respect are proper gentlemen. And then these 21-year-olds that I've never even heard of and send me a tune and expect me to know who they are just rude as fuck.
Yeah, that's true, actually. I mean, that might be just a more reflection on general society and younger people having a sense of entitlement that didn't exist years ago.
Yeah, I think you're right.
So, I mean, that again probably leads on to the next question really well, which is, what rookie mistakes or common problems do you see over and over again that new or early startup record labels make?
Labels or artists?
Let's go with labels first. Keep it on the label tip, and then we'll go and you can feedback on artists making what kind of mistakes they make.
I'm trying to think of labels that have not done things in the correct way, like new labels, because they're like in drum.
I guess if you're starting a label, what are some challenges you're going to face? You're an artist, or you've been releasing on other people's labels already. You're now going to do your own one. What kind of challenges are they going to face, and or what mistakes have you seen people make?
I can't think of any mistakes that people have made, but I think, as with any brand or business, before you start, you've got to kind of understand what the ethos behind that brand is going to be. And that's the same for a label. Like, you don't want to just go around and just scoop up loads of random producers just because they're looking for an outlet for their music. You want to know, like, look at metalheads, look at what they've built up over the past 20, 30 years.
25 years?
I think it's more than 25, but yeah, look, most of the labels are around, most of them around 25, but like, it's all stemmed from growing a roster and a sound. So if you went to a hospitality, you know what you're going to get. If you went to a metalheads night, critical, people know what that label is all about. And I think you need to really think about that from the beginning and set kind of like a roadmap of what you want to do, because otherwise it's just going to be a bit all over the place.
Yeah. I mean, that's something I always suggest as well. Like, it's part of writing your business plan. Like, what's your story? Why should anybody give a fuck about you, basically?
Exactly, yeah. What do you what does you and your brand stand for?
Mm. So I guess moving to artists, are there any rookie mistakes you've seen artists make?
Well, we talked earlier on about it being key to have a good team around you. What I'm seeing, well, I've been seeing it for years actually, is 21-year-olds get their first booking because they did a sit down rave in lockdown, and then they've got a manager. And this manager doesn't know their head from their ass. They're friends with someone's cousin who's friends with that person who knows Andy C. And
Mm.
it's just like 20% of nothing is nothing. Like, don't have people around you that are going to restrict you. And don't feel like you need to have a management contact on your Facebook to be successful, because that means fuck all and no one cares.
Right. So what you're saying is basically someone's getting like an inexperienced manager or someone who's just keen to get into the music industry and say,
And that goes for agents as well.
I'm going to be your manager, and really they have no contacts and no experience in doing it.
Yeah.
Don't sign up, because I guess then that you have to deal with that manager, and that's frustrating for you.
Yeah, exactly. And I've seen it on both sides. I've seen artists not get represented enough because their manager's been doing a rubbish job. I've dealt with managers which I've had to turn around and go, what are you doing even managing this person if you don't know this question that I'm asking you? So yeah, it goes back to what we were saying earlier on. You have to have a team around you to help you to get where you want, but it has to be the right time and it has to be the right people.
Awesome. Okay, so I'm gonna move on to some music trend questions. We sort of covered this a little bit earlier with record sales. Where are you finding royalties are coming from across the major platforms: Spotify, iTunes, Amazon, Tidal?
Yeah, Spotify is obviously the leading one. Apple Music is second. Probably this time last year, I was seeing that Apple Music streams were roughly, for the artists that I was working with, about half of what Spotify was, but that was mainly because Spotify has a wider territory. Apple is big in America. Americans don't quite get drum bass properly. I mean, they get like there's so many different subgenres. Some performs well over there, some doesn't. But I've noticed that is probably now it's about 3/4. So Apple Music is just growing and always will. Amazon, like we touched on earlier, is growing. Spotify's like a household name, isn't it? Like, your mum probably doesn't know what Amazon Music is or understand what that is, but if you say Spotify, she'll know exactly what that is. Yeah. So yeah, Spotify will continue to hold the key for quite some time.
You heard it here first.
Well, they're currently in Parliament arguing about what is a stream.
Yeah,
is it a purchase? Is it a license?
Yeah, I do hope that it goes in the favor of musicians.
Well, we can live in hope, but the Tory government aren't exactly helping us that much, really, are they?
No, they're usually on the side of the corporations, but we shall see. Speaking of Spotify, what have you been finding works for you to get on Spotify playlists, and not the? I mean, yeah, I guess so. From the official curated playlists to the privately curated playlists.
So the algorithmic v non-algorithmic.
Yeah. So what would you say works better for trying to get on the algorithmic, and what do you think works for getting on the private playlists?
Well, I've got a good tip for algorithmic playlists, which is so simple that when I tell people it and they don't know it, I'm like, it's common sense, but it's not. So whenever we do a release, artists have their own curated playlist within their profile, and again, like talking about like that in itself is content. It's a way to show what that artist is about, whether that's new music of the moment they like or influences or anything like that. So one key thing I always, without a shadow of a doubt, get an artist to do before a release is a couple of weeks before, ideally consistently leading up to the release. Drive as much traffic to your profile as possible, because if you can drive someone to listen to a track on your artist profile a couple of weeks ahead, the bigger the chances of the algorithm picking that up and then your releases appearing in their Discover Weekly and release radar going forward. And it's such a simple thing. If there is an algorithm, work with the algorithm and take people there so it picks them up. So that's my top tip for algorithmic playlists.
Gotcha.
And you look like it's just gone in. You're like, oh.
No. I mean, it's something that I've been likewise. I say, hey, drive people to Spotify because Spotify want to see people on Spotify, and they will reward you for that. So I totally get that. And the little light that went off is I just kind of thought a couple of artists I've worked with on their first release, it's actually done better than their second. And I was thinking, I wonder if that's because they say, hey, I'm on Spotify. I've got all the Spotify stuff. They're driving everybody to their Spotify. Their second release, because they're not newly on Spotify and they're maybe talking about other platforms, that whole kind of like momentum, because a momentum from 0 to 100 listeners, it's like 100%, where your momentum from 100 to 120, the algorithm's going to go, it's maybe not the same.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, that might be a big reason for it. So that's a great tip. And what about for the privately curated ones?
So obviously getting through to an editor, however that will be, whether that's pitching through Spotify or having your label pitch to the platform, or however you're going to do it. Mm-hmm. And like I said, with pitching, you want your information to be clear. You want a streaming link so they can listen within the email or within whatever you're pitching on. So it's all nice and simple. And again, telling the story of the release. So I always say you have to kind of like tick all the boxes with a release campaign. So you got your single, you make sure you lock in your radio premiere, your online premiere, your launch date and everything like that. And give them a quick rundown of that. And obviously with your club promo, say this has been supported by Friction, Chase the Status, highlighting all the, obviously don't send an email with like all of the artists that have replied to the promo. Use your brain, go, right, well, that person performs well on Spotify, so I'm going to pick that one, or that one person performs well on Amazon, that kind of thing. Yep. And don't copy and paste like the pitch to all different platforms. Make sure you tailor it. Like simple things like with Spotify, making sure that you're highlighting what playlists it would work well with. Make it easy for them because they're inundated with emails and messages every day. So the easier that you make it for the person to absorb, the better.
Yeah, I hear you on that. And with the when you're talking about sort of what you're doing on the marketing side and having your like key premieres, would you say if you've got almost like a press release, having underneath that, you'd have like a short list of what you're doing, like just saying, hey, like this is what we're doing on the marketing stuff, and just making that available to them?
Yeah, like anything, like if it's an album, if you've got an album launch party, when touring starts back up again, highlighting key territories. Like you don't have to highlight that you're playing room 2 in like some student union in Oxford, but like say I've warmed up for Wilkinson. So it's using your brain, picking out the highlights and making it digestible and making yourself look amazing, obviously.
Name dropping. Yeah. Have you used Submit Hub? Have you used it? Would you recommend it?
Submit Hub, is that the one where you click to submit your track and then it automatically makes you follow all of those crap playlists?
No, that's the next question. Submit Hub, so it's a curated list of playlists across Spotify and YouTube and SoundCloud, and you submit your music and then they have to listen to at least, I think, 30 seconds or 40 seconds, and then they get paid. You buy credits and then they get paid, it's like 50 cents or something for listening and providing feedback. So they're kind of getting rewarded. And then if they listen to the track and go, hey, I really like this, and they click support, they say, yeah, I'll upload this to my Spotify playlist, or I'll feature it on my SoundCloud account. It's I mean, we've used it before, and it's pretty cool. I just wasn't sure if you'd come across it before.
No, I've not used or heard of that one actually. But with third-party playlists, again, it's just doing your research. Like there's a drum and bass playlist called Freshest D&B by a guy called Simon, who's been growing that over the past 2 years. And he did it by just really doing a thread in 174 Facebook group every Friday with the new releases. And then someone went, hey, you should make this into a Spotify playlist. And he did. And that's now got nearly 13,000 followers and is basically like one of the key places that real drum and bass fans go.
Wow.
You got to do your research, keep your finger on the pulse and connect with these people. It's all part of the networking. It's the same as if with radio. If someone got a new radio show and they were playing the kind of stuff that you're selling, then you'd obviously reach out to that person and be like, I see what you did there. Maybe you should have a listen to this.
Well,
got to keep your finger on the pulse all the time.
Finger on the pulse. Now, I'm sure that you don't use these, but what's your thoughts on companies that are saying, I will guarantee you 100,000 plays, or I will guarantee you'll get on 50 playlists? Like, I know you're a professional, so you wouldn't have used them, but have you worked with any artists that have tried using those, and what their experiences were?
I've had a couple of artists ask me if I'm going to be using it, like going, oh, Aim, you should use this. And I'm like, no, because as far as I'm concerned, they're not, what's the point? They're like fake, kind of like fake streams. Yes, you get paid for it, but you realistically, you want to build an audience that are engaged and that are going to come back and that are going to follow you. Being added to random playlists just for the sake of being in there that aren't really going to convert to that many streams seems like a complete waste of time to me. And plus, I have seen them where like you have to log in with your Spotify, because I think I tried one a couple of years ago when it was still really new, and I was like, oh, what's this? And then I was like, hang on, Tech Step 1984. I'm like, what are all these playlists that have just randomly appeared? And it just, it's not the one. The reason why those playlists have got big numbers is because you have to follow it to get yourself in there. That's not how music curation works.
Yeah. It's all vanity numbers, isn't it?
Yeah. It's like buying Facebook likes. I don't know if that is a thing anymore. And then trying to get bookings off the back of fake Facebook likes.
Yeah.
Bollocks.
Well, you might get some bookings, but no one's going to show up.
Exactly. Yeah.
Blogs, are they still relevant?
I mean, every kind of exposure for an artist is relevant. I think it just depends on whether you have the resources to reach those. So if I was to prioritize promo, I would prioritize radio and streaming over blogs. Because it's a wider reach. It's a wider reach. And with the blogs, like you might get the stream or buy link added to the blog, but realistically people probably listen to the YouTube embed and then skip off, and then you've lost that fan then. But yeah, it's still definitely relevant, because like it's a good thing, especially for emerging artists. Like the UKF blog, you've got Magnetic Man, they do their top drum and bass things every month. It's definitely still relevant. It's just not everyone has the resources to put equal amount of love into all of those platforms. So
yeah, I guess it can be used as a stepping stone, like, hey, I was featured on this blog, and then trying to get somewhere else. Paid advertising, so running ads promoting music across Facebook and Instagram. What works for you? Any failures? Any successes?
Well, video content will always be king. In terms of reach, engagement. even as organic content, let alone paid. I'm finding that if you can put little amounts on and kind of, because I know some people, when it comes to paid advertising, they get into auto mode and they're like, right, I've got an out now video, chuck 50 quid on it, and then they forget about it. One thing I will always say is start off small and watch it and change your audiences. Because one thing which Facebook is particularly great for is rinsing all your money. So you can have an add-on for 50 quid and for 5 days starting from Monday. On Wednesday, I'll have a look at it and it's had like 10 clicks and it's only spent about 20%, but then it magically spends the other 80% in a day. So yes, smaller amounts, keep an eye on your analytics, change your audiences throughout the campaign. And don't go too wide on your audiences as well, because especially with Facebook pages, some of them are so dead and you're going to be targeting people that are not going to engage or click through to your page or anything like that. So
Gotcha.
yeah.
So when you say changing audiences through a campaign, do you mean setting up a different audience and like, do you change it within the campaign, or do you create a new campaign and go, we're now going to target these audiences? Do you have audiences saved that you keep using?
Yeah, so always set up a bespoke audience, whether that is you for yourself or you with a roster of artists. Always make sure it's tailored to the T. What I always advise on Facebook, because of the way that Facebook and Instagram restricts your own followers seeing your content, a good tip actually is to put a very small amount on the post. Say this is a boosted post, and put a small amount on it first so it reaches all your audience, and your audience already follow you, they already like you, so they're probably more likely to engage or even just click a like button. And then when you turn it to what is called a cold audience, so people that don't follow you, when they see the post, which has had all this engagement on it and looks like a popular post, these cold audiences are going to be more susceptible to engaging with that post. What people won't do is engage with a post which has got 0 likes and comments. They're just going to see it as spam, but something with lots of engagement on already will perform better.
Gotcha. So what you're using is within Facebook, when you create an ad, you can create an ad with a piece of content that's already been posted on your page. So what you're saying is that's been posted, you've done a little boost to build up your organic, and then you go, I'm now going to turn that into an ad and go that to the cold audience. Yeah, that's a great tip. Social media platforms, so YouTube, SoundCloud, Facebook, Twitter, etc. What are you finding these days are getting the best response from fans? And are you using TikTok yet? Or are your fans using TikTok? Oh, not your fans, sorry. Are the artists you work with using TikTok yet?
So I set up a TikTok for Elevate last March. And by June, I had 10,000 followers by not really doing much.
Wow.
It was pretty mad. I was essentially just posting drop videos, and like I posted one of Friction playing at his headline show in London, which happened last March, and then like forgot about it because I don't use TikTok. I'm not a TikTok user. And I kind of forgot about it. And then I went back and I was like, oh yeah, I forgot to check that post. And then I was like, oh shit, that post has had 500,000 views. I was like, what the hell? And it's all based on like, if you get on that, well, what is Instagram's version of the discovery page? I think it's called Explore on TikTok, or made for you page.
Yeah, it's kind of like it just keeps scrolling past you as you keep scrolling up. Yeah,
and like I know TikTok have got in a lot of trouble in America and whatnot, because it is based on hashtags and algorithms. Like if I go on there now, it's just like drum bass, drum bass, drum bass, drum bass, or bass line, and someone's listed it as drum bass, and I'm just like,
right.
Oh, but it's a mad platform. It is crazy. Like I was like, oh, I don't need another one. Like I'm mid-30. I don't need, and like they're all really young, and plus when you've got them playing like bass line and they're like, I love drum and bass. It's like, oh, cringe. But yeah, a lot of younger artists are using it, and it is quite engaging for a young audience. Me personally, I don't use it, but one thing I will say is at the time when I was doing the TikTok, it was more, I was just experimenting with it for Elevate. And one thing I did see quite clearly is what the content that I was putting out on TikTok for Elevate, I couldn't put the same content on Instagram. So
when you say you can't, what did you mean?
No, it wasn't. So the content that I was putting out on on TikTok, felt like it. Well, it was aimed to aimed towards a younger audience. It was a little bit more slapstick comedy. So, like, I remember that Friction had a new tune out, and I got a video of those cheese where they chase the cheese ball down the massive hill. And there was a bit where a woman like fell and rolled over, and I timed it on the drop, and I posted that on
I remember that one. I saw that.
Yeah, and I posted that on TikTok, and like that, they loved it. Whereas if I posted that on Instagram, I think it's not really like the right audience for Elevate on there. They want drop videos, they want big reaction stuff. They don't want stuff which is too overly cheesy. And as a brand, we don't want to come across cheesy either. So it's just kind of like exploiting the platform and their audience and giving them what they want. But like Shogun, on the flip side of that, we never got there is a TikTok Shogun, but only so we have the domain and it links to the Instagram. So if people do look up Shogun on TikTok, at least they're directed to where the content is.
Gotcha.
But as a company umbrella, we didn't go, right, TikTok is big, so Shogun, you need to be big on TikTok. It was like, oh, hang on, it doesn't really work for this brand, but it could work more for this. So yeah, to basically to sum that up, don't think because a platform is new and shiny and because people are talking about it that you as a brand have to automatically jump on there. Yeah, have a little look like I did.
But if you do, you'll get 500,000 plays on a drop video.
I mean,
sort of half selling it.
I know, but like it depends what you're about, isn't it? Like, I can't imagine Doc Scott doing like going on TikTok and building a following, doing TikTok dances. You know what I mean? So as with everything within marketing and in the digital world, is it right for your brand?
So, okay, maybe give it a go, see if it's working. If it is, keep going. If it's not, focus on another one of the platforms that's working for.
Exactly.
Sync deals, rare sync deals. Have you found ones that work?
Well, I got a very successful sync deal, which was back in 2018. So I was lucky enough to bag the Copperberg advert. The Copperberg cider.
Oh yes, Copperberg cider.
Yeah. So was chatting to them. They wanted I can't remember the name of the original. I need your loving like the sunrise. What who's the original?
I remember the hardcore version that came out in like the 90s.
I can't remember.
With the cheesy piano line.
Yes.
That song though.
Yeah. Well, we put it towards some Shogun artists and got them to do a rework. We worked with an ad agency on that, and they had a very specific brief of what they wanted. And working with Harry Bryson, who is one half of Polo and Bryson, and an amazing singer called Simone, we did a up-to-date version of that version is called Everyone's Gotta Love Sometimes by Abacus. And yeah, we secured the deal for the TV ads, cinemas and everything on that, which was massive. And there was a 30-second ad and a 60-second ad. And they rolled on that deal for 3 years.
Wow.
And we were allowed to release the record. We put it out on vinyl. It was quite funny actually, because we didn't know that it had rolled over another year, and then all of a sudden it was like number 10, it was like number 9 in the iTunes chart 2 years after release. And I was like, oh, the adverts are back on then.
That's
So
good.
yeah, so yeah, getting the
Another
right
royalty
thing.
check.
Yeah, and like that's done really well.
So
So
that's
yeah,
done over, that would be over a 5-figure deal.
yes, yes.
Oh yes.
Oh
And
yes.
and how did that actually come about? Like how did it come about, that deal? You say you spoke to an ad agency. Did they reach out to you,
So
or?
I actually that came about because I was actually speaking to a gentleman that worked at Apple Music. I was talking to them about the Paul and Bryson album, actually it was. And yeah, we were just chatting, and he said that he had this friend that really wanted a drum bass remix, and he connected us, and I played him some stuff from different artists from the Shogun label, and he was like, yeah, get some demos over. We sent them a couple of demos to choose from different artists, and they settled on Abacus, which was great.
Oh, lovely. Very
Mm.
nice networking.
The advert is great as well. It's called, oh god, it was 2018. I can't remember. Bring the out, bring the outside indoors, Copperberg. It's got loads of kites and stuff. It's a really good advert.
That would be pretty relevant now. Bring the
Yeah.
outside indoors.
Yeah. Bring the indoors outside.
Oh, sorry, that's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, final question is, if you had to run a typical single release, you had a 6-week lead until release date, how would you run your single marketing campaign?
Right. Well, obviously you needed to get it delivered, get it in the
Yep.
system as soon as possible.
Mhm.
Once distribution have delivered it to the stores, you got to then obviously do your pitching. Well, before that, you would probably, oh God, I'm started answering this question like it's not something that I do every day.
I think it's because you know everything to be done. It's like,
Yeah.
where do we start again?
But yeah, obviously you need to get the music to the stores. That's the first.
So we've got the distribute. So it's on distribution. You've got your release date on, let's say, May the 1st. You know it's coming out on that date. You're like, right now, how are we going to get everybody to listen to it on that release date?
Yeah. What I always do is I build a Google timeline with the artist, which breaks down week by week, building up to the release and afterwards. And I said it earlier on about like ticking all those boxes. So promo and radio and playlist plugging, I always say it's like an equilibrium reaction. So radio want to know what press is saying about it, and what previous support it's had, whether that's other radio shows or DSPs or whatever. DSPs want to know who's supporting it on radio and this, that, the other. So it's all about getting the timing right. Now, generally, I always lock in my radio premieres first, just because obviously you'll want your radio premiere to happen on a specific date. Say with this is drum and bass, say for example, like getting Rene LaVice to premiere it on the Tuesday of the week of release. So then you get that locked in. Your online premiere, say that's with UKF, Drum Bass Arena, whatever kind of platform you're going for. And I always lock them two off first, basically because it's a date-wise thing. You need a specific date. So the earlier you get it to them, the more likely you are going to secure the date that you want. And then once you've got all that information and you've got your press release and everything all nailed, then you can start spreading it out to what I call VIP press. But back in the day, it was just called print press, because you had to make sure that you were getting to press to meet print deadlines, which is obviously not as much of a thing now. And then you start getting out, and like we discussed earlier on, if you've got Label Engine or InFlight or any kind of promo service like that, you want to get it out to your peers and get some feedback from them, because that can all feed back into this main pitch. And then once you start getting it all out and getting all this feedback, and you kind of build a picture of the release, who's supporting it, where it's going to go, then you can do your DSP pitching. And then obviously there's everything else that will come with that, in terms of, is there a music video? Are you doing what kind of content are you doing online to tie it all together. So then you need to then delve down onto the kind of like nitty gritty of the marketing and social campaign and your budgets for ad spend or whatever like that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, there's a lot to do.
There is a lot to do.
There is, yeah.
And
so much so that I forgot for a brief second.
And are you like, and that's obviously leading up to the release. Is there anything that you always do at like 100% without shadow of a doubt after release date? So the track's out. What are you doing for the 2 to 3 weeks following it?
So generally on release day, I am making sure that, so not only is it important to get kind of like the editorial support, but it's good to give yourself a little digital spring clean. So if you're a label, you want to make sure that those new releases are in your back catalogue playlist and stuff like that. So on Friday, I generally do this on like, make sure your SoundCloud upload is up with all the ISRC details so you can monetize on SoundCloud. And then YouTube, if you're having a premiere elsewhere, are you going to put it up on your own channel and monetize that after the exclusivity period? So make sure you've got all that lined up, because again, it's all content that you can share on social media. And yeah, I also streaming platforms like Spotify, obviously, because they do the pitching through the app. It's harder to do. They do like follow-up stuff, but if there is key support or anything that is newsworthy, then follow up with the DSPs after if you haven't got support in the first time. Just because if there's more to the story that you can tell, just drop them a little courtesy email and just let them know.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's, like we were talking about earlier on, there's a lot of competition out there, and just because they missed it on release day doesn't mean that they won't support later down the line.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. Amy, that has been amazing. It has been incredibly valuable, super insightful. Thank you so much for sharing that, everything. Where can people find you? Where online can they find you? If someone wanted to work with you, where's the best place for them to go?
So my work email is Amy, AMY, music, Jayne, JAYNE @gmail.com. I'm on Twitter at Miss Aim, MISSAIM, and same on Instagram as well.
Awesome. Yeah, I will definitely be recommending anybody who's looking for any kind of club music promotion to come your way, or someone to help run their label. Thank you again for your time, Amy.
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure.